We're one day away from NBA basketball. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, and FSWA Hall of Famer Steve, Dr. A. Alexander. And welcome to all the viewers on Twitter and YouTube. And if you're on Twitter, head on over to YouTube. If you have any questions for us, you'll be able to get them answered more easily over there. And if you have something against YouTube and you want to ask us questions on Twitter, you just go ahead and reply to the tweet promoting the show. We're going to get you guys ready for week one. 1 day to go before NBA basketball. Oh my God, I can't believe it's here. We're going to get you guys ready and talk about some spicy issues. There's a lot of drafts still going on. I know I've got a ton of important drafts still, and we have several big issues on the plate. So we're going to be talking with Jacob Dunne of our own Sports Ethos. He does NFL and NBA for us over here. Before we get into all of that, let's shout out our sponsor, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all things sports betting. BetOnline has every stat, matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games, including the largest catalog of odds on everything from football to MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, and political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of our over 150 slots. Head to the website today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline. The game starts here. Before I bring in Jacob, Steve, I ignored several of your texts over the last 2 days. I'd like to publicly apologize for that. I fashioned you as a bit of a texter. I want to be a texter. It's just there was like 50 drafts this weekend. I was just glued to the draft tracker. So I'm sorry, sir. I really screwed that one up. How are you doing?
It's all right. I'm sure none of it was important.
Actually, you're correct. I don't think it was. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I can't talk, but I'm doing good.
You actually sound, every time you say you can't talk, you sound better than the last time.
Well, we shall see.
Pretty soon you're going to be here singing.
Hopefully,
just letting it loose.
I would like to be able to sing on the show right now.
All right, I give it 2 weeks, and then Jacob Dunne. You guys have been working just head down, just killing it over there. Both NFL and NBA draft guide. So how you hanging in?
Oh, I'm hanging in tough, my man. I mean, we are knee deep in all this stuff. And with 1 day away, like you said, I mean, I am just so proud of our team for all of the collab that we've done together, for all the research that we've done, and, it's always a good day when, I can cut it up with two fantasy basketball legends here in Brew and Doc. So, getting everything done with the team at Sports Ethos and getting to talk about it a day before Christmas or the NBA season opener is such a blessing. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. No, I'm fired up. It's funny because we've had this joke forever, Doc. Like we run up to the season start and we're all just like dying over here. And then it's like, oh, by the way, there's actual basketball to be played. And there's something to do tonight and be tomorrow. On Tuesday, we'll be watching games and actually assessing them. And then you get into that Wednesday. And that Wednesday is crazy because everybody in the league plays and you haven't felt that for a year. And it's just nuts. There's tweets flying around all over the place. Whatever happens. And then you're just like in it with no break at all. But that's kind of the way this goes. And we want to get you guys prepared for that. So we're going to talk a lot about this first week. We do have some really interesting draft stuff going on with Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid, and Paul George. And I know a lot of these guys are not the people you want to draft, but with the stuff that's going on in drafts, you got to talk about it. It's really crazy. In fact, I tweeted about it. I have a team that I'll probably share in a future episode that I'm not sitting here trying to say it's like the world's greatest draft or just like the best thing since sliced bread. I think it's the strangest thing I've ever seen in a draft, given the names and where they went. So we'll get to that at some point in time during the week. Okay, let's start with Jacob. So what's going on with week one from a schedule standpoint? For those of you who don't know Jacob's focus, and not his entire focus, but one of his focuses is streaming and getting the most bang for your buck out of your lineup, does a ton of that. So as you've been looking at the first week, what's the best schedule going out there?
All right, so I got about 7 teams who I'm very excited about their first week. And who is in first place is the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, so I think the Cavs must have slipped Adam Silver a 20 at the beginning, like at the beginning of the offseason, because you couldn't ask for a friendlier matchup. All right, they go to Toronto to start the season. Then they play the Pistons and then travel the next day to play the Wizards. So I say fire up all your Cavs and even like your bench play, like even their bench players, whom I will get into later, are very, very enticing because some of those games might be a blowout.
Interesting.
Um,
So what about players that fit the mold of adding to your lineup to get an edge in week one? Like, is anybody sort of risen to the threshold of like schedule play at this point?
I think so. It's very tough to gauge. Like, I just have last season's stats and defensive ratings and, like the offensive pace, and it could change, but I don't think it'll change that drastically where we can't use that as a template to help us out this week. So as far as like, the Cavaliers are number one on my list, and I saw that Karis LeVert is under rostered in Yahoo leagues. He's under 40%, and I think that he gets a lot of run this week. He's just like a low-key under the radar play for this week. That's just one example for the Cavaliers, and I have about 6 more teams that I could dive into that have a really nice schedule. If you'd like me to, Brew.
Yeah. Actually, but I want to ask Doc real quick because how much are you playing the stream game in week one? Like, is this something that when you get into your first week, you're just raring to go and you're like just thinking about streaming all over the place, or even more kind of a set it and forget it? These are the guys that you came to the ball with, and you're just going to kind of see how things play out.
For week one, I mean, there's no 4 games, right? So everybody plays 3 or 2, and so there's not huge advantages going in early by making some sort of move. Now, look at a team like the Pistons; they play 2 games. I somehow have Marvin Bagley on my team in a couple leagues. Would I like to
You want to talk about it?
Would I like to drop him for a 3-game guy? Sure, but I'm probably not going to. So week one, I let it ride. But this is the most important time to be active on the waiver wire and make sure you get the hot guys because they're all going to be gone by next week.
That point, yeah, a lot of this streaming stuff will kind of go not over my head. I just don't do a lot of head-to-head leagues, so I'm not like diving deep into this. Though there is one league, the Sports Ethos 9-cat Roto that's got daily transactions that you guys are going to force me to get more into a day-to-day element of this. So thank you very much for that. But that first week waiver action is massive. Second and third week also massive. I think that the getting in on that quick edge wherever it may be is it sometimes is, I don't know, I don't want to go overboard and say like league changing, but there are several examples. Like, let's take a player like Jalen Johnson last year. Like, I think most Sports Ethos folks had him on rosters prior to people realizing it. But if you got Jalen Johnson in week one last year, you just got a early round player while he was healthy, for the rest of the season. So when the winds change here, you got to be ready for it. And that's what we want to make sure you guys are nice and prepared for. What about you, Jake? Jake?
Go for it.
I guess you're Jake now. We talked about this before the show. I asked if it was ever goes by Jake or Jacob. No, just Jacob. Well, Jake it is.
I wasn't that brunt about it.
I know. I got to give myself hell. But
Love it.
What about you? Are you streaming in week one? Like, have you found an angle to make that make sense?
I'm absolutely streaming in week one. Now, I get what Doc is saying, especially in a weekly lineup. There's no reason to stream because there's no teams playing 4 games. It's just 3 and 2. But if you are in a daily transaction league, I say why not? Because of what you said, Brew, perhaps someone streamed Jalen Johnson, like his second game because he got over 25 minutes. And it's like, okay, let's see if that trend continues. And it just so happened it continued, and now he's a stud, and now he's being taken in the 3rd and the 4th round of this year. So it's like I kind of so I like to, with my last pick or even like my last 2 picks, they're just like flyer guys that I'm hoping turn into the next Jalen Johnson, or a Desmond Bain. And if they aren't, then I can quickly cut bait. I can stream and I can find the next one, or I can just win my matchup this week and just maximize the amount of games I can get. Now, that's kind of like the points league expert in me talking, because the name of the game is to get more fantasy points than the other team. In a 9-cat league is a little bit different. Like you either target a specific category or just hope that a player contributes across the board. But I'm not against streaming in week 1, especially in a daily transaction league.
Got it. Okay, what about these other teams you've been eyeballing? I mean, in week 1, It's really got to be tough to find the angles. It's so easy to just sit back and say, hey, it's the first week of the season, preseason was whatever, just sweep it all underneath the carpet. But it sounds like you've been able to uncover some teams that are good targets here in the first week. You mentioned Cleveland. Who else? What's the first one that's hit your radar?
So I'm a fan of the Heat schedule. They are right behind the Cavs in the easiest schedule. They're at home against Detroit. They travel to Charlotte, and then they're at home against Orlando. So they should put up plenty of fantasy points and plenty of stats for you. And I have a very deep league guy for the Heat that I would love to touch up on either now or later. But next up on the list are the Hornets.
No. Let's get to. You can't do that. You can't do
that. Miami only plays twice, though, right?
Miami. Oh, I thought I saw that they played 3 times. But let me fact check myself here really quick.
They don't have that Detroit game you mentioned. I think it's just the latter 2.
Look at Doc. Just jumping in there.
Doc, thank you.
I'm a schedule grid guy, man.
You are a schedule grid guy.
Yeah, you are.
What I was going to say is I enjoyed the fact that the travel was short there. Like, that's a nice way. The Heat are trying to stay healthy this year and not having to crumple yourself up into an airplane and, travel long distances. And, just right there in your backyard, no real big weather changes. Steve, what do you think about, you have that look about you, like you're thinking about something or no?
No, not really. I'm just not a Heat fan. Like, I don't like that team.
That's what it was. I could see it.
They just annoy me. Jimmy Butler and I do not get along.
Really? Did you watch the Netflix documentary? Or not
yet.
Documentary. I think anything. If it's on Netflix, I call it a documentary because that's all they have on there. It seems. Jimmy was highlighted. Jimmy was Jimmy. The rest of the show was kind of interesting. I don't know. Okay. Other than Miami, as we get that fact checked out, what's another team that you like for week 1?
So Doc was definitely right. I was looking ahead at week 2. On Monday, they face the Pistons. That's my fault. So for the Heat, I teased a player, Kel'el Ware. I really think that he gets a lot of garbage time, and he could even factor in early, but I'm waiting to see if that is the case because Thomas Bryant is still there, and we're not sure if Ware is the direct backup to Bam. We're just going to have to wait and see. But he's on all of my watch lists. I'll just say that. And then third on the list are the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to fact check myself. They do play 3 times, and I really like their schedule. A couple of fast-paced games against Atlanta and Houston. And then they end it with a tough Miami Heat team that Doc doesn't like. But, I just like that schedule for the Hornets. And then next we got the Hawks.
Hang on. Before you jump ahead into Hawks, sorry to do that to you.
Oh, no,
I want to go back to your Heat take with Kel'el Ware.
Yeah,
I really think just kind of reading the tea leaves in Miami with the the Ira Windermans of the bunch out there and various beat writers that I think they're kind of wise to the fact that Thomas Bryant's not ready to go, or ready to go is the wrong way to put it, not good enough to play. I hate to put it like that, but so Ware to your point, if there's garbage time, if you think that they come out and just start firing away and Miami gets to put him on the court for 20 plus minutes, it wouldn't be shocking to me. He didn't get a lot of love in drafts. I think some people took the flyer, but I wouldn't be shocked if he had a couple noisy games and then was being talked about. Whether it's sustainable or not, I don't know. But if you were thinking about trying to get in on that, you might try to do that before these games are played, if you believe that it works out that way. Sorry, I stepped on you.
No. I have a quick Charlotte comment. This is as good as it gets if you own LaMelo Ball, right?
Yeah.
3-game week. He's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the stars are aligned. You should have a great week. And then from there, it's all downhill. So good luck. Good luck to all you suckers who have.
Oh yeah.
So we should be selling high. Is that what you're saying, Doc?
And vinegar.
I don't know.
That was the message. That was the message I got out of that. Is sell high, right?
Sell high.
Just enjoy the sweet, people.
I don't
soak it in.
We talked about him for like 2 months, I think, with huge question marks. Just like, what are we all going to do with LaMelo Ball? And then like he played one game and the answer was draft him as high as possible.
Right.
Get as much LaMelo Ball as you can. Not me. I think I maybe once. I got to look and see if I got one LaMelo Ball out there. But he started going in the high second round. I think I saw him on the turn a couple times. And I'm like, here we go again.
Right.
Is he going to play in that Friday, Saturday back-to-back?
That would be a great question.
Right. That's a great question.
Yeah. And if you have LaMelo Ball, so when's their first game? Their first game is what day? Do we know?
Wednesday.
Their first game.
Who is it again?
They're
Houston.
Rockets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's not good though, because that Houston defense could eat him alive. They could put Amin Thompson on him, and he just might not score. LaMelo is interesting because he probably would score against Amin Thompson. I'm just being a little extra there, but like if it was not that team, and I think that team's going to come out hungry. By the way, I think they're going to come out trying to make a statement right in game one. It would be a little bit better because you get him to go big in the first game, and then if news isn't yet out about the back-to-back, you have a 1-day window to sell LaMelo Ball and try to get that first, second round value back. People get super excited. Let's say he takes like 5 million 3-pointers, half of them of the undesirable variety, but he gets a big stat line. I mean, you could then turn around and sell. And then when he can't play it back to back for whatever reason, if that's the case, that's going to scare the crap out of people. That day that news comes out, you will have to wait another 3 weeks before you could move LaMelo Ball if you took him on draft day. And if you're just feeling itchy, like, I don't know if this was a good call, and also benefiting from sort of this, this upswell of faith in LaMelo Ball, because I think people, as soon as they saw him getting drafted earlier in like the late third and then the back half of the second, I think they all kind of went, okay, maybe we should take this seriously. Maybe we should get on the LaMelo Ball ride for another season. But hey, it's been 2 seasons in a row of death and destruction. So at any rate, who was your next team on the list? Unless you guys have any Charlotte takes that you wanted to add to that.
No Charlotte takes for me. Although, to Doc's point, LaMelo is kind of going the way of Kawhi Leonard, where all this talent, never healthy. And we'll talk about Leonard later, but too early for the turn in the first round. But yeah.
You got any other teams that kind of rise to the top of your list over there as good teams to target?
Yeah. Think we should target the Hawks. They play against the Nets and the Hornets, and then they end it with OKC, and then the Boston Celtics kick it off with a electric matchup against the Knicks. I can't wait to watch that tomorrow. And then they follow it with the Wizards and Pistons, which could be good or bad for Tatum and Brown, just because like they could get up super early on the Wizards and Pistons. And usually Jaylen Brown was quoted, I believe, saying like, when we face teams like those, that's like Peyton Pritchard's time to shine. So I would definitely think about streaming Peyton Pritchard, or at least like like a DFS, a dart throw on those games where the Celtics played the Wizards and the Pistons. And then my last two teams, the Pelicans, they kick it off at home against the Bulls before playing 2 games in a row in Portland. And then shout out to the Bucks for facing the 76ers, Bulls, and the Nets. I think those are very friendly matchups as well.
Nice. Start, sit, streaming, premium Q&A. That's going to happen every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And that will be taking place with Jacob. He'll be hosting, and we'll have all sorts of stuff in our Discord. And if you haven't had an opportunity yet, I will be posting a little something on our in-season premium service, as there are some major announcements that you guys will be hearing very soon about cool stuff that you guys all get. So I hope that you guys are excited for that. Now, talking back about some of these drafts that occurred over the weekend, I saw Kawhi Leonard go at like 110 and multiple times. It felt like maybe 110 was the level where people were like, well, I'd be dumb not to do this, even though you had no thought in your mind that you were going to draft Kawhi Leonard after all of the news that's been banging around. Joel Embiid was dropping like a rock. Paul George was dropping like a rock. Let's go around the room. I'll start with you, Jacob. Like Kawhi Leonard, what's your philosophy in terms of how you're handling him drafting the next couple days?
So I was already off of Kawhi. I have been for the past few years. I think I can assume that we all are. But now I would debate even spending a late round flyer on him.
Yeah.
That's hyperbole, but it's just like seeing him at the 110, it's like at that range, I feel like I can take a shot on like a Brandon Pajemski, like someone who has so much upside that could actually contribute for my team, other than sitting on a player who's out indefinitely. And in like Kawhi terms, indefinitely could be the whole season, or like, because like if the Clippers get down and they're out of the playoff race, why would Kawhi come back and risk further injury? Because we saw what he did in San Antonio. He's, like he played the first 7 games. He sat out the rest of the season, even though the staff cleared him. So I am not touching him with a 39.5 foot pole. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I had Kawhi that season. I called him the worst first round pick I'd ever seen, because you didn't know you could drop him. So you had, not only did you have that big hit, swing and miss, you had to relive it every day. Your team sucked, and that was brutal. Doc, you got a little gambler streak in you. Yeah. Did you pull the trigger on Kawhi at 110?
No.
Just a flat out no. No, it's just like with Joel Embiid, dude. This guy finished 5th last year or something. What did he finish? Does anybody have that?
How far would Kawhi have to drop for you to draft him? And I'm like, off the board.
160?
You
wouldn't draft Kawhi at 160?
Pick him up off waivers.
Love it, Doc.
I'm also not.
This sounds personal, Doc. This sounds personal.
I'm also not touching friggin' Kristaps Porzingis.
Nope.
When's he going to play? Nobody knows. I'm not sitting on that guy for 3 months.
Not even in an IR slot?
Maybe.
He's softening.
Nah, maybe.
Over there.
Maybe, but you're going to need that IR spot for LaMelo Ball on Tuesday.
That's personal.
I love it. I mean, I took the plunge, and I watched a lot of industry ringers, people that aren't like doing media or whatever, that, just win every year. They're taking him around 110. It's like we all kind of maybe are looking at each other saying, well, I can't let you do it. What if it hits and you get it? Like there's probably about 5 or 6 of us where they're just constantly, at the top of the standings. And it's like, I can't let you do it. But I don't know. To me, I think that the risk reward in a roto league, especially, you can kind of manage that a little bit. When I made the pick, maybe picks. I think I've done this twice, maybe even 3 times. Maybe I have a problem. Maybe I need to see somebody. That's every time I'm just, I can't let that pass. I can't let that pass. But I've seen and been through all of it, and Ty Lue not really kind of being able to talk about it because he knows that it's ultimately up to Kawhi, and Kawhi is going to call the shot, and the shot's probably not going to be good.
Right.
And so I think it's a risk reward kind of a deal. Now, Paul George, his old teammate, can't believe these guys are congregated around just like 2 teams here. Paul George did talk about his injury. I think we're getting up to speed on hyperextensions, maybe as a basketball viewing public. Like the Giannis one in the playoffs a couple years back, I think that maybe was the final tipping point. I always thought a hyperextension, especially with the way it looked, dating myself 5, 10, 15 years ago, I always thought, man, that's terrible. That's the end of that dude's career. And, they've been popping back up and playing quickly even. So I thought when it happened, I said, you know what, that looks really bad. It's definitely bad news for Paul George. And it's, could put him at further risk for injury. But I was like, I bet he comes back in a week or 2. And the whole time I was watching the Paul George stuff play out in draft rooms, was like, should I be trying to buy the dip? Did any of you guys consider buying the dip? I'll start with you, Doc. Did you consider buying the dip on Paul George? When Paul George passed your draft tracker and he was just still sitting there, did you think about it at all?
Well, I drafted last night in a 16-team Yahoo League, and he went with the 4th pick of round 3. So I was looking at the Jalen's around that time. So I wasn't really worried about Paul George. And then all the Jalen's were gone, and then Paul George was gone, and Jaren Jackson Jr. was gone. So I had my heart set on Miles Turner. And of course, he got taken 1 pick before me at the end of round 3. So I just said, screw it. I'm not worried about centers. And I took Cam Thomas.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, he just to kind of follow up on the reporting, Paul George himself on his own pod said that he didn't think this would be a long timetable, and it sounds like there wasn't anything structural, just a bone bruise. Now, the bone bruises can have an impact on cartilage growth. That's something to always watch when you're reading tea leaves out there, but it sounds like this is kind of all systems go for Paul George. He's going to probably be out a week or 2 if I had to guess. So,
yeah, I mean, Paul's different than Kawhi and Embiid. Like,
agreed.
I could see a world where I draft Paul George, but it's going to have to be further down than 36 or wherever he went.
Yeah,
I'm more like 40 to 50.
That's where he was going. It was around 40 to 50. And I thought there was a shrewdness to the Paul George stuff. And he did appear in the queue, a couple times. And I had a better player and, thankful. I was like, okay, this made the choice easier for me. And, but it caused me to think a little bit about, what about you, Jacob? Did you think Paul George at any point in time in your drafts?
I didn't necessarily fade Paul George, but like Doc said, I am not taking him as ADP. Like a few picks into the 3rd round, that's just too early for me. Like I need at least 3 foundational pieces before I take a shot on an injured player like that. I know he's a superstar. He's going to put up big numbers, especially in 9-cat. But you got to think he will never play in back-to-back games, and Joel Embiid won't either. They'll switch off. Like Embiid's going to be in the lineup for the first game, he's going to be out, and George is going to be in the lineup for the second game. I just can't trust that inconsistency, especially in a points league. So if he were to fall in the 4th round, I'd take a shot for sure, because then I know I have 3 foundational guys that can carry my team. And then that extra upside lottery ticket in the 4th round with Paul George, that's great. I am just not comfortable taking him in the 3rd round.
All of this is set up so, I don't know what the word, wonderfully, hilarious, interestingly, where you have all those old dudes from last year that crushed fantasy leagues. Kawhi crushed fantasy leagues. Paul George crushed fantasy leagues. Anthony Davis, LeBron crushed fantasy leagues. And here we are fading them at levels, that are really unheard of. You mentioned Kawhi, if they're out of contention, and that being one of the driving factors for not really wanting to burn a pick there.
Right.
On the other side, you got Paul George arriving in Philly, and I'm going to link this to Joel Embiid here, is these guys, their window is now. Like, it's not next year. It's not the year after that. Like, if you're trying to win in Philadelphia, you're doing it while Joel Embiid isn't, is able to walk up and down a basketball floor.
Yeah.
Like, that is the big concern. I don't know how many years of basketball Joel Embiid has left. It's going to be really tough for him unless he loses, say, 25, 35 pounds and tries to thin out and change the way he plays and just, stop playing through injuries. That's probably been one of the most frustrating things with him, is watching him play through injuries when you clearly have a timetable on your career. But is that piece, go ahead, Doc.
Oh, no, you have a question. Go.
Yeah, no, it's just, is that piece where these guys in Philly, they have to win this year? Is that driving Paul George into a better place for you draft-wise? And then with Joel Embiid, I know, Doc, your position, you're just like, no. Like let's actually rehash that for listeners. At what point in time in a draft would you draft Joel Embiid if he was still there? 4th round?
Never.
6th round? See, I think it's personal. It must be personal.
No, man.
So if Joel Embiid plays 40 games, like 40 games this season, he'll probably be like a 6th round value. Now, if you're in a head-to-head league, counting on that would be, if you got him in the 6th round, I guess you could make an argument for taking him in a head-to-head league if you thought that he was only going to play 40 games. So it does change things a bit. But the point there is, like, Joel Embiid can kind of trip and fall and be an early round player. He's proven that. And we know he's not going to play back-to-backs. We know he's not going to play, his chances at playing 60 games are less than a coin flip this season. But these guys, they made the big bet. This is the window. If Joel Embiid sets a personal goal, I'm not going to play in back-to-backs, but I'm going to play as many games as I can. Other than that, maybe he hits 58 games. Maybe he hits 60 games. At which point in time, he will be right up there, in a second, 1st round value, conversation. Does that give you guys any, interest in all in Joel Embiid? He's been falling deep into the 2nd round. I've seen him in the 3rd round in places. It's pretty crazy. It seems like just a week ago, or not a week ago, probably 3 weeks ago, people were still taking him in like the 5 to 10 range. So is there any universe, Jacob, where you're considering Joel Embiid?
There's a universe, but it'll have to be in the 3rd round. I'm just like I said earlier, I need those foundational players that I can count on night in and night out virtually. But as far as making like a goal and saying like I'm going to play in every game except for back-to-backs, that's actually I never go off what players say, but I let Anthony Davis sway me last year when he made a similar proclamation. And so he dropped me in the early 2nd round. And so I said, why not? Let's see if you are for real. And lo and behold, he did it. Now I trust Anthony Davis's his build more than Joel Embiid. Anthony Davis could do it. I feel like he just got dinged up going to the locker room, coming back like every single game. But last year was different. He made that goal. He was determined. I don't know about Joel Embiid's work ethic to try to do that because he's so easily injured, but they're major injuries. Anthony Davis would just get dinged up. Joel Embiid has, with his weight, like you said, not great on his joints. So I don't think he can make that same proclamation and go through with it. I'm skeptical. I'm pessimistic about it. So if I see him in the late third round, I'll take a shot on him, but there's no way he lasts that long. So
that
I'll
shifted
let
to the
someone else
late
deal
third
with that.
round. I love it. It was
Yeah.
the third round, and then it's the late third round.
Late third.
You bring up some interesting background to kind of how you're handling injuries. Like a player says this or a player says that. We always fade the like 15 pounds of muscle or the 15 pounds lost in the preseason.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say always. Actually, sometimes, you look at a player, you're like, oh yeah, that did happen. But back to kind of reading the tea leaves and injured players, like Doc, you've been doing this. By the way, this is Fantasy NBA Today with the great Dr. A, the Hall of Famer Dr. A, and Jacob Dunne of Sports Ethos. Doc, you've been doing this for 20 plus years, like drafting injured players. It's easy to say, no, I don't do it, right? What's your philosophy on drafting injured players? Is there a way that you look at it? Is it a gut thing? You're like, okay, this thing might actually pan out.
I've got Anthony Davis this year because Andre kept giving me the 5th or 6th pick in all my drafts. So
you're doing that to me too. It's crazy.
So I've got way too much Anthony Davis. Last year went well. Do I trust him? No. Is he going to potentially ruin my fantasy year? Yes. But there's not a lot you can do. I mean, you've got to take good players when they're available to you. And I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if Davis is going to play in 70 games this year or not. But all I can do, with that pick is take him and hope it works out, because I'm not drafting Joel Embiid. I don't want Jason Tatum there. I want a guy like Anthony Davis. So you just got to, it's risk reward, Why am I okay with drafting Anthony Davis and not okay with drafting Joel Embiid? Well,
that's a fascinating question for this season, by the way, but keep going.
Davis has a chance to play in 70 games. I don't think Embiid does.
Yeah.
No, I think by definition he doesn't.
Embiid could play in 30 games. And I'm a head-to-head guy, so I need my guy out there.
That's
and
right.
The other one, before we're done with all this, I'm curious as to how much Zion you guys got.
Zero. Zilch. I don't. I am optimistic just because he shed all that weight. But I still am not comfortable taking him in the 3rd or 4th round, his ADP. It's just like, I love the talent. I love the upside. But around that time, I need someone, like you said, Doc, whom I can count on week in and week out. I'm just not sure Zion has reached that circle of trust yet for me.
I wonder how much Trey Murphy factors into all of this. Trey Murphy just got his big extension today. I think the writing on the wall for Brandon Ingram is now in like permanent ink. And now he's going to be, shopped more aggressively. And then what does that mean for Zion? And this question of like, does Zion even want to play in New Orleans? I mean, the weird rumors kind of surrounding that, at some level, it's like, I could just be the noise machine creating noise. And then it's like, noise has been around for a bit. Maybe there's something to it. And I don't, if he's not in the plans for New Orleans, if he's searching for other places, I'd be very concerned about his season this year, just because that means he's not really committed. And that would be the bad thing. It also would question his sort of mindset if he thinks that he's earned something so much that he should be shopping locations to play. He hasn't earned anything at the NBA level. In fact, he's put on more film that he's not ready for prime time than he has put on film that he is ready for prime time. So it's a very interesting situation in the sense that, like, yeah, he's overdrafted by name and all of that stuff, but when you get into the more kind of discerning leagues that are anti-Zion, I think there are people that are literally anti-Zion Williamson, like just a will not, do not draft. The question gets more, it gets put in your face a little bit more, and I'm not doing it. I don't think it sounds like you guys are doing it. Doc, did you get any Zion out there?
Out of 10 or 12 drafts, I have 0.
Rick, though. Rick likes Zion, right?
Rick seemed like he was buying the weight loss plan, the Nutrisystem.
I'm not buying the weight loss thing. Sorry, Jacob. I'm just not doing it. I need to see more. I've not seen enough.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you.
I think the league at large needs to figure this thing out where like just get the games on TV, put them in League Pass, figure this out so we're not all just chasing games on the most random stations or some pirated feed. But this injury thing, it's interesting to me because I don't think it's gotten talked about enough. These guys won leagues, not Zion, but Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, Anthony Davis. Why are we comfortable with Anthony Davis all of a sudden in year whatever and not these other guys? Anthony Davis has literally a meme about leaving the game every game.
Yeah.
It's people throwing cash into the fireplace. Shout out ETR. Like that's that's okay, but this is not okay. That risk reward issue that you're talking about, Doc, might be the answer. It might be the answer. Like Anthony Davis is the reward seems to be there for the risk this year. That's pretty much it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. In relation to the players that are being drafted right behind him. But the falling like a rock phenomena for Kawhi and Joel Embiid in particular, I have never seen anything like that. I don't know. Doc, you've been doing this a long time. Can you remember a player that was a first round guy one season going outside the top 100 the next season under this kind of a fog? I mean, it's possible Kawhi could play like week 2 or something.
Well, and I think in today's day and age, everything is so much more publicized. Like we have the information about Joel Embiid, where 15 years ago we may not know everything we know right now.
Right.
So I don't recall someone falling that hard. But then I was in a draft last night and Joel Embiid went 13th. So I don't know.
I got to remember who there was somebody that went real early in a draft last night, and I chuckled. What about? Okay, here's another one. There's another one. Asar Thompson. He's not even getting drafted right now. I did a Twitter search for Asar Thompson, and there's like one guy just hitting the Pistons PR every day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Can we get an update on Asar Thompson, please?
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing because it's much better than that, but it's like, come on, like, do we know anything? Does anybody out there know anything on Asar Thompson?
I have 0 Thompson twins.
Well, that's a bum. I mean, he was looking like a top 50 guy last season, and blood clots are serious business. So like, this isn't an Asar Thompson thing. He looked like he was playing basketball really, training aggressively like 2-3 weeks ago, and now you get just radio silence out of the entire operation. Like, how do you translate that, Doc? Because I want to ask Doc this one. You've been covering news for 20 plus years. Like, how do you translate when the team says nothing in a situation like this?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the team. It depends on the writer. But this radio silence on that it's terrifying. Like,
right.
I don't want to draft him. I don't want to draft the unknown,
It's tricky because small markets, sometimes they just don't care. Like literally about breaking the news.
Fair.
Like you said, he's not even being drafted in some leagues. So, if lo and behold, he plays in week 1, you go pick him up. But I didn't draft Asar or Amen in any league this year. And it wasn't really intentional, but I guess it was because I could have. Just always found guys I liked more, or at least knew more about.
What about you, Jacob? Asar, like, any thoughts there? Did he get drafted in your leagues? Did you think about drafting him?
In our 20-team Sports Ethos League, I debated on taking him, in like the very, very late rounds, but I had already spent a injury pick on Malcolm Brogdon in like round 15 or 16 just to take a shot on him. So I didn't want to muddy up my IL spots on, like you said, on a very concerning issue with Asar Thompson. We have no idea. The last update we got was September 30th that he has blood clots and he's out indefinitely. Like, that's all we got. So I just don't see a need unless you are at the end of your draft, you drafted no injured players and you just want to take a shot. But he's easily someone you can cut bait if like you have a LaMelo Ball and you need to stash him on your IL. Like, like you have to make room, because until they give us an update, and I think that's a great point you made, Brew, where like if Asar was on the Lakers, they would be hounded to give some updates on Asar, and they probably would have given it like the day after, just given the fans a timeline. But I guess like the Pistons are like, well, we got Simon Fontecchio and their newest draft pick,
Simone, by the way, and he's
Simone.
talking Ron Holland.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Ron Holland.
Yeah, Ron Holland.
Ron Holland, like, who I saw on film in G League games, and I said, never would I take Ron Holland. And I don't know. He had some spicy lines in the preseason. So
gotcha.
I don't know. I'm not changing the viewpoint there until I see it with my own eyes.
I hear that. Yeah. It's
sorry, I stepped on you there.
That's okay. I appreciate the help. It's baffling that we've heard nothing. So I'm not taking him. I'm not touching him. I don't even think you see him on draft boards, at least like on Yahoo. I didn't really see him until late. So I think he's technically has an ADP of like 158, which is around like the 14th, 15th round. That's still too early.
Yeah, it's fascinating just because there was the top 50 stretch in like the first month or so last season. It really just looked like he was going to cruise. And then Monty's like, nope, I'm not going to do that. And then it all just sort of crumbled. And this is a big buzzy name with, he most certainly, I can assure you that the workouts that were shown, like you'd look at him and be like, he's perfectly healthy young man with plenty of basketball in him. And by the way, lots of upside and not a peep on draft day. Okay. So let's see where we got next here. Actually, let's shout out some of the tools that Fantasy Pass folks will have access to: the schedule grid tool and the low traffic day tool. And then anytime Mike Passador writes, you guys should be contractually obligated to stop what you're doing, tell your employer that you're not going to be working in that next 30 minutes and just read whatever he writes, because he's probably the best basketball writer going today. It's crazy to read his stuff and then see how it stacks up against kind of big names out there. So that's what Fantasy Pass holders are going to be getting. Looking at some of these low traffic days, you guys looking at like, say, Celtics and Timberwolves and kind of making them ideal for streaming options. Tuesday's got just the 2 games and Thursday's got the 4 games. Jacob, we'll go to you. What players that fit the mold for streaming are you looking at out of those 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday?
Yeah, so I talked about him earlier, but on the Celtics, I'm definitely looking at Peyton Pritchard. I think that he's going to get a lot of run this week, especially towards the Celtics' last 2 games of the week. Just very easy matchups, Wizards and the Pistons. I think he gets a lot of run. So I'm definitely looking at him. And then on the Wolves side, it's tough just because they are a pretty deep team, and like most of their top end players are rostered in a lot of leagues. But if you want to get a little spicy, or if you want some assists from, like Joe Ingles isn't a bad, well, it's kind of
shout out Joe Ingles.
What's that?
Oh no, he's just an old favorite. Smoking Joe.
Joe Ingles propaganda here. Yeah.
Oh, so definitely. Yes. By all means.
He could provide some assists, and then there's Rob Dillingham just to see if the rookie gets run. Like, I'm watching him. I'm not trusting him, but like I'm watching him. Like, are the Wolves going to integrate him in that rotation? And then Alexander Walker was a streaming dandy last year. But how's that going to look this year? Like, it's very tough to gauge what the Wolves will do. But those are, Ingles and Dillingham and Alexander Walker. I would debate streaming those. I guess I would trust Ingles and Alexander Walker more just because they're veterans and they probably have a role. But out of like the Celtics and Timberwolves, I'm trying to get Peyton Pritchard for the last 2 games of the week.
God, I think he could be good this season. I mean, it's going to take a few events. They're just a really talented player. And the fact that he's got a highlight reel of half court, full court heaves, 2 in the playoffs. What a player. He's actually a threat from 60 feet. Doc, you got anybody in the Celtics and Timberwolves land, maybe not even streamer specific, but just anybody that's maybe under the radar that you like, that's caught your attention on those squads?
Well, I'm going to talk about, can I talk about a different team?
By all means.
Will you allow it, Bruce?
I shall. I'm not the guy to worry about. I go off script all the time. It's that guy behind the scenes whose name shall not be said. He's going to edit this out anyway.
So the Clippers play on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm thinking you've got a kind of a shaky guy that you play on Tuesday and Tuesday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday. Then if you wanted to drop somebody and pick up Norman Powell, I think Norman Powell, if he was not drafted in your league, he's an automatic pickup, in my opinion. And Terrence Mann, for that matter, as well. Like, both of those guys should get tons of run. Kawhi Leonard's out indefinitely. Harden's probably going to be day-to-day all year. And then if you want to go even deeper in that, Amir Coffey and Derek Jones Jr., all 4 of those guys, but particularly Norman Powell, I'm kind of excited about.
We could keep going there, like Chris Dunn. Kevin Porter Jr.,
I was just going to say,
folks don't want to, really go there because of the off the court stuff. But he's had a couple, noisy Kevin Porter lines coming off the bench in preseason, and you got a team that's going to struggle for creation. They could throw caution to the wind, and in these, something happens with Kawhi and he's like out for the year. It starts going downhill real quick. Let's try Kevin Porter out and see how that goes. So there's that with the Saturday Sunday combo. What about other late week streamer combo type action? It looks like the Thunder play 3 games in 4 days, and you get some low traffic action there as well. What's anything in Thunderland? Especially got Isaiah Hartenstein out. Anybody in Thunderland cracking the seal here?
Well, do we know if Jalen Williams is healthy? Because if he is, I'm not talking about like Jalen, like the popular Jalen's, but like the backup center, Jalen with an I, is he healthy? I'm not sure. Like he's kind of questionable for the opener, but if he's healthy, he's definitely someone to stream in very deep leagues because he'll definitely soak up all of the backup center minutes behind Chet.
Do we have an Osman Jang moment at all this season? I just want one. That's all.
He could be a thing.
I just want one. There's no way that guy plays this year, right? Which is amazing.
What about Lou Dort? Is Lou Dort getting drafted in any league?
No.
I took Dort in our 20-team league at Sports Ethos, and he went pretty late, and I was happy to see him because he's just a solid 3-and-D guy. I feel like, he doesn't really hurt you. Yeah.
He could get the vaunted 3, the old 1-1-1 or however you want to count it up. 3 plus, I call them cash counters, 3 steals and blocks. I think over 3 is easily in play. That makes him valuable. Alex Caruso.
Oh yeah.
He was going in drafts. Yeah. I mean, he had a top 50 season last year on the back of that stuff. And so the fact that Dort wasn't going in drafts, not surprising, and I'm not like chasing Lou Dort or anything like that, but somebody should be. Somebody not named me should be out there doing that.
And yeah, Jalen Williams is healthy. The big Jalen Williams.
Right.
If he is healthy, he's going to play. He should play a lot with Hartenstein out.
I'm a fan of his game. Rebounds and blocks. Let's go.
Looks like we're going to do a few questions here to wrap up. I am excited about that. I can't wait to do more questions on the show and just get people involved. It's always good. Kool-Aid Trippin', would you pick Tari Eason or use that spot for streaming? A little rhyme action there.
Stream
and Eason.
So we got one stream. Jacob, are you an Eason or are you a streamin'?
It's just with the Rockets, they're so deep. But Eason is so tantalizing in 9-cat. He dominates when he gets those minutes. So I think I will wait. If you get Eason, wait to see what his role is at first before you stream. Maybe the first game or 2 games. See if he gets 20 minutes. If he gets 20 minutes, keep him. If he gets like 12 to 15, stream that spot. So I don't know if that's a cop-out answer, but I just want to wait and see for at least 1 or 2 games before I stream that spot.
I think that Tari Eason might be like Ime Udoka, like reincarnate on the floor or something, like just the way that he plays. And that, I think that they're looking to form that identity in Houston. If Eason's body can just hold up, I think he's probably a shoe-in for top 150 value. How much he can get beyond that I have a question about. Like that there's just so many bodies there.
Right.
But if things happen, there's always this what if factor that you just can't plan for. So low minute guys that have some talent, things happen and you just could be sitting on a top 50 guy if something great were to happen. I don't think that's in his cards this year, but like maybe top 75. Yeah, top 100.
Yeah.
Keston Paul. Jang is a game 82 legend in the making. Yes. And I hope it's not at the expense of my Oklahoma City Thunder wins total over pick. I'll be quite upset. But who knows? He'll probably lead them to victory because he can play ball. A little tongue in cheek there. Okay. So Vin M, I was offered Levine and Bain for Chet in a 10-team 9-cat head-to-head. Who wins the trade? Doc, I'll go to you first. If you're offered Levine and Bain for Chet in a 10-team league, what are you doing?
I'm keeping Chet.
Yeah,
I have a personal grievance with Zach LaVine.
Oh, that's like 5 grievances on today's show alone.
Yeah.
Shall we have a moment and air them?
No. No, I haven't seen Zach LaVine in like 2 years. I don't even remember what he looks like. So
hey, Lonzo Ball played. Just to throw that out there, we would really mention that. He looked good too, like quick and athletic.
Good.
Yeah,
I
only played like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But
I will say that I love Desmond Bain. So Desmond Bain for Chet, probably not crazy, but I'd rather have Chet.
I want to ask you guys about Chet. We will get one more question in here, maybe. I want to ask you guys about Chet. Like he started flying up. I saw Chet go 12 or 13. Was it Chet that went 6 and I chuckled? I can't remember. Anyway, Chet, like, did the Hartenstein injury, did that change things for you guys in a substantial way regarding Chet? Did he fly up boards or where did he end up sitting for you guys? I'll go to you first, Jacob.
He didn't change for me. I guess his floor became safer, but I mean, he's going to get 30 minutes a game regardless, even with Hartenstein. Like Hartenstein was just, in my opinion, he was just brought in to be a solid backup and to get boards. He's a tough guy. Chet is second to Shai in being the heart and soul of this team. So, it didn't sway me either way. He didn't run up my draft board. He didn't, but I liked him at the turn. I still do. If you're out there and you're still doing your drafts, that's an amazing foundational piece to get at the turn or late first or early second. But no. He didn't really drive up my draft board.
Doc, anything on Chet?
The Hartenstein injury just made it feel like it's safe to take Chet. Like it made me feel better about it. But it didn't like sway me hugely.
Where were you targeting Chet in the second round?
Yeah. Chet's a second round guy to me. And I don't have a lot of Chet.
No, sounds like that was back end then. Yeah, he started going in the front end of the second round and even in the back end of the first round. So I did notice that Chet bump. Okay, one last question here. Eon, Luka for Harden and Maxey, question mark? Luka for Harden and Maxey. 20 teams, 9 cat head-to-head. That 20 teams is doing some heavy lifting there. Yeah. Let's get some sides here. We'll go to you first, Jacob. Are you going to ditch Luka for Harden and Maxey in a 20-team league?
I usually love the best player available, whether it's a 2-for-1 or not. I feel like this manager with Harden and Maxey is trying to make it look appealing to get, Doc's MVP. It's tough in a 20-team league. I get it. Like the depth is crazy. Like you have no depth, so this would definitely help. It's just James Harden is just annually off my draft board. Like I don't really like his ADP. I never do. And Maxey's good. He's really good. It's just that for those two players just don't equal Luka to me. So I would hold Luka.
Yeah, I'm wondering about you, Doc. And actually, I shouldn't wonder about you. You're just going
to should.
What are you going to do here?
I've got a lot of James Harden this year.
Okay.
He's skinny. There's no Paul George. There's no Kawhi Leonard. It's just like Harden and Norman Powell and Zubac running around out there. So I've got way too much James Harden. And Maxey's really, really good. So, I mean, if Harden stays healthy and does this thing, that's a steal. If you get Maxey and Harden for Luka. But we don't know if Harden's going to stay healthy. We don't know if Luka's going to stay healthy. But I would be very tempted by that trade. Very tempted.
Yeah, the funny thing is there's more value on the side of Harden and Maxey than there is on the Luka side. I think this really comes down to your roster, and if you have the ability to use all of the value that's going to be on the Harden and Maxey side, that's going to be key. And you got to look at the back end of the roster because you're taking on the second spot. Like in the Luka situation now, if you get Luka or you keep Luka in this deal, you can fill the other space on your roster with some sort of value. So like, what's the value add in having that additional roster space? If you end up taking on the second spot, like what, or taking on the 2 for the 1, how much are you losing on the back end with your roster? And because the margins are really close. If all of that plays out well for you, I like the idea of diversifying your risk and splitting it up and getting these 2 players that profile really, really well for this season. I mean, Harden, I think, will just try to play all season long. I don't think he cares if they win or lose or anything like that. I think he's just playing to sort of reestablish his value in the league. He's in great shape. I think he's also a baller at his core. Like, I think the dude probably lives, eats, and breathes basketball, but then also has the other stuff that's caused the things that we've seen in the past 5 years to come and sort of torpedo his career. Now with being in LA, he loves LA, being in probably the best shape he's been in for the last, say, 3, 4, 5 years, building off of a somewhat successful season last year. He actually did really well for Sports Ethos folks. I like the Harden pick, and then I like Maxey. So if you can split the asset, if the back end of your roster doesn't suffer too much, I do like diversifying the risk. That's crazy. It's a tough one. I don't generally go for the 2 in a 2-for-1 trade.
Right.
All right. Good first show, guys. Really digging this. We're going to have 7 episodes per week going forward. That's Monday to Friday. We'll have a show every day. We got the Sports Ethos Invitational later this afternoon. That's going to be at 1:15 Pacific time, I believe. Don't quote me on that. You'll see tweets all about that. We got all sorts of names this thing's going to be a little crazy. It's been, I got a lot of high stakes drafts going on right now. I haven't been putting a lot of thought into the Sports Ethos Invitational, but it's actually going to be really, really good. And we got a prize going to charity for that and a prize going to the winner. So people will actually be competing. That'll be fun. 1:15 today. And then show-wise, 7 episodes per week. We'll have an episode on Saturdays with Panda. So we're going to get the great Panda out of his hiding. We're going to talk about buy lows and sell highs. We're going to get Mark Camaro talking Dynasty. Jacob, you'll be joining us as well, talking about streaming in the weeks ahead. We're going to be doing that a lot this year with our in-season product, is trying to just be ahead of everything, everywhere. So just getting as much distance as we can on the market, the competition, however you want to put it. We just want to be in first place constantly. So join us for that. Get a fantasy pass and you'll get locked into everything that's going on there. And as far as the free show goes, you guys will be seeing that 7 days per week. And that's all going to be good. Jacob, thank you for dropping by. We'll do this a few more times. Doc.
It's my pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Doc, you got anything before we jump out of here?
No, man.
You're just chilling. Doc
Love
style. Join us and drop your questions in for the invitational on YouTube later today. Check out our in-season content at sportsethos.com. That's going to do it for Fantasy NBA today, presented by Bet Online, a Sports Ethos presentation. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.